What's up, guys? So, bring back the beard. What, you think I could just snap my fingers and bring back the beard? You think that's how human physiology works? So 7 months ago, I did a video on one Mr. Ryan Humiston. He had said that compound movements and progressive overload suck, and I took exception to this statement. And that video placed in search and was not very well received by the Ryan Humiston fanboy military-industrial complex, where they dropped a bunch of nasty comments. That's when you know you're right. When they don't debate you, they just hate you. However, a lot of people actually commented on that video saying that they had gotten value from Ryan Humiston's exercises, tweaks, changes, workout hacks, etc. So I wanted to objectively as possible investigate the question, should you invent your own exercises?
Oh, look, a barbell. I can use this to get bigger biceps. But how? How can I use this barbell? Let's try curling it. Yeah, this works. This feels pretty good. But I'm not getting very many views. What should I do? Let's mix things up a bit. Let's try reverse grip. Oh yeah, feel that brachioradialis, that brachialis pop. But I'm still not really getting any views. Let's try something a little bit different. What can I do with this? How can I curl this? There we go. That is so much more effective. Not for the biceps, but for the views. Oh yeah, feel that contraction of the subscriber count. Oh yeah.
The first pro is that you might feel a movement better. So let's say you're doing incline dumbbell curls and you're doing them in a standard textbook sort of way. You might actually feel the movement better if you internally rotate, externally rotate. Perhaps you let your elbows go forward, elbows go back, more of a drag curl, partial range of motion, or some other change to the standard way of doing the movement. However, especially if you are natural, you won't always feel a movement. So I might not feel squats in my legs, especially for lower reps, but that doesn't mean squats are not effective for building the legs. Conversely, just because you feel a movement somewhere, that doesn't mean it's actually going to be more effective than some other movement that you don't necessarily feel. I think especially for naturals, they have to train in a way that is a little bit different from steroid users. And for a lot of steroid users, you hear them talk about like the feeling the muscle, contraction, the pump, all these things that are simply not really very important for a natural lifter. So if you're a natural lifter, be very careful when you listen to someone who is enhanced, as Ryan is. And to his credit, he is actually pretty open about it. Number two, it might actually be safer. So if you feel a little bit awkward with a normal squat position, perhaps just a normal stance, going wider, going narrower might actually feel better, even if it's not a standard textbook way of doing things. So even for beginners, I would say going by instinct when it comes to small changes to your technique can be a very, very good thing. The third benefit is that you might get more variety. So when you're inventing new exercises, it just gives you a bigger tool. More tools in the toolbox. So what is going to be better? A toolbox with 20 tools or only 5 tools? Pretty obvious answer, right? And this variety, this variation in training can shift the stress to different areas at different times. And this can definitely help you with staying healthy. If you always do the exact same movement every single workout, over time, this can definitely lead to some repetitive stress injuries. Number 4, it can help you focus on a specific area. Now, this is going to be my next book. It's still in progress. It's a little bit slow going just because I'm so damn busy, but it is definitely in progress. To help show support, you can grab the first book, Sweat, which has hundreds of different exercises with pictures, full descriptions, talks about programming, how to write your own training programs, has some full templates, injury prevention, how to progress, how to change your program when it's not working, how to avoid plateaus, etc. And thank you so much for the support. Now, in terms of correcting weak points, I think you can shift the tension slightly to different areas by making some small changes in your technique. However, I think this is often overdone, and if you're trying to focus on like the short head of the bicep, the long head of the bicep, the lateral head of the tricep or something, this is usually a waste of time. You see these infographics and it's like how to target every head of the quad, how to target, arrange your feet on the leg press. That is usually not really worth doing. Number 5, you can change the strength curve. So for example, on a curl, if you're doing a preacher curl versus doing a spider curl, the strength curve is going to be totally different compared to a normal barbell curl. Will this impact long-term results? I don't know, maybe slightly. Perhaps if you have like a biceps injury, you'll focus more on like the contracted position rather than the stretched position. Perhaps it can help you to avoid some tendon issues, tendonitis, etc. And it might be worth experimenting with, at least to keep you healthy and injury-free. Number 6, it can help you to get in more cheat reps or to overload the muscle to stimulate mTOR and to get you more muscle growth. So sometimes by doing some kind of tweak or hack or getting some extra oomph from some other area, it can actually get you better results and more muscle growth. Number 7, it might be fun. You might just like to change your training on a regular basis, to experiment, to do new things, gets you that nice succulent dopamine release, that kind of thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this. If you're not enjoying your training because you're only doing the basics and those are really boring to you, it's the modern era. I get it. If you're taking more than 3 seconds, you're going to get understimulated, bro, and therefore you need something new to get that dopamine going. I get it. However, this might also be a con as well. Let's get into the cons. The first con is that too much variety can be a bad thing. So you do need a little bit. If you're always doing the same exact movements, probably not optimal. Okay, you're not going to stress the muscles in a variety of ways for optimal growth. It might be okay for Olympic weightlifters, but even they do some accessory work. So specificity is a good thing, but too much is also not a good thing. So you do need some variety. However, too much is also not a good thing. And I think a lot of people have too much variety in their training. And if you're doing like 10 or 15 different movements for a specific movement pattern, you would probably be better off cutting that down to like 5, 6, maybe 8, and just doing those, because they're going to be more effective at actually giving you results. Earlier, I talked about how having more tools in your toolbox is obviously a good thing. Well, you still have to carry that goddamn toolbox around, okay? So sometimes only having 5 tools in your toolbox, provided they're damn good, useful tools that you're actually going to use, is going to be better than having to lug around 20 different tools, or 30, or 50, or 60. I've legit seen like 60 different curling variations from Ryan Humiston. At a certain point, it's just a little bit excessive. Plus, number 2, it might be less effective. Again, you want to focus on the good movements, the ones that work for you. Often, these are the basics. Why? Because they're the basics for a reason. They've been tried, they've been battle tested by other people, and they fucking work. They don't necessarily work for every single person on the planet, but they work for a lot of people. And to think, especially if you're a beginner, to have the hubris to think like, oh, I need to just avoid the basics and do my own thing because the basics are boring, that is usually going to get you absolutely nowhere. Number 3, they can be unsafe. So doing something that's new, well, it might be new just because no one else was dumb enough to actually do it. So if you're doing a high bar squat and then you're supersetting it with a low bar by rolling the bar down your back, fucking think. Okay, think, why is this not a great idea? Okay, because shit happens in the gym. It can happen with the tried and true basics, but it can happen even more when you go off the beaten path.
That shit is one-way ticket to Snap City, man.
What the fuck? God damn it. All right. God damn it. Let's take it. Jesus Christ.
Number 4, no progression. So you can progress by doing a lot of movement, sort of a conjugate style of training. You have a huge variety of exercises that you rotate in and out. And I don't think specificity is like the most important thing ever, unless maybe you're an Olympic weightlifter or a powerlifter. If you just want hypertrophy, I don't think specificity in terms of a certain exercise is all that important. However, if you're doing too many exercises, it does make it hard to track. Plus, to a certain extent, your body does seem to forget some movements. If you're only front squatting once every 2 weeks, that can make it really hard to front squat and progress at front squats. And sometimes this can be really deceptive because you're doing so many different exercises, you feel like you're progressing because everything is new and novel, and of course you're setting personal bests every single workout because everything is new every single workout. And of course, doing something new will be very easy to PR on because you don't even have a personal best. But are you really progressing? Are you really progressing? Often you don't know. You have no idea because you haven't done this variation in 3 frickin' years. Plus, it makes tracking things kind of a pain in the ass. For example, here are all the hinge movements that I actually track. Sumo, pause sumo, sumo rack pull, conventional deficit, RDL, rack pull, back extension, glute bridge, hip thrust, snatch grip deficit, strict good morning, pin good morning, and trap bar, both high and low from a deficit. That already is pretty damn excessive. A lot of those movements I have not done in months and months, simply because it's not possible to do that much variation in your training and just keep track of it all and actually progress. Yes, some accessories build other movements, but if you're really all over the place, it makes progression, real progression, kind of freaking difficult. So should you invent your own exercises? Well, if you're a beginner, I would say absolutely not. Okay, just stick to the basics. You can tweak the form a little bit if something is a little more comfortable. Like if you prefer narrower or wider stances, or changing the grip width on the bench press, that kind of thing, that is fine. Okay, just go what is comfortable. Even as a beginner, you should be able to instinctively realize what is going to suit your body and your leverages. However, I would advise against doing anything really, really novel or weird. I see a lot of programs, especially from Athlean-X, where everything is just different and new and novel, and it makes it really hard to actually progress, especially if you're a beginner. Just stick to the basics. Once you're an intermediate, I think that's where maybe experimenting a little bit with these new movements, whether it's something you've seen on Instagram that's a little bit weird, like, doing lateral raises with plates or something. Why? I don't know why. Like, maybe if you enjoy it, it's fine, but it should not be the majority of your training. Once you're advanced, like actually advanced, you've been training for a solid half decade or more in the gym, you know what you're doing, you know your body, then you can think about inventing your own exercises, tweaking things, changing things to actually get more out of the movements, and then also having more of your program be these non-conventional lifts. They can be fun, they can be interesting, they can be exciting, and especially once you've built the majority of your muscle and you've built your physique, then you sort of have more freedom with what you can actually do. Plus, it's going to be safer because once you've avoided Snap City a bunch of times, avoiding it in the future is that much easier because you know what your body can do. If you're a beginner, you don't know how your body moves through space, how it responds to different positions and loads. And so for beginners, I would say sticking with the basics is really, really highly advised. And contrary to popular belief, I don't hate Ryan. I actually think he's really fucking funny. It's just that him talking shit about progressive overload and compound movements, the things that he used to build his physique, is highly, highly hypocritical. But there is value in what he's doing. It's just that for the beginner, it's probably not a good path to go down. Get a few years in the gym using the basic movements, maybe tweaking them a little bit, and then in a few years, you can go the Humiston route and invent your own exercises or use the sort of more odd lifts type of thing that he is promoting. Nothing wrong with that at all, but probably best to do later. And a lot of people commented on my original video saying, I followed Humiston practices, it worked really well for me. And just looking at their profile pictures, they were clearly beginners. As a beginner, it's very hard to A/B test your training for the simple fact that everything works. Okay, if you push hard in the gym, eat enough food, as a beginner, you will gain muscle doing almost anything. So it doesn't mean that just because you saw your arms grow from these weird variations, that doesn't mean you wouldn't have gotten just as good of results, if not better results, from the basics. You just don't know. I don't know, but you definitely don't know either. And if you're more advanced and you're like, I tried this new variety, and it finally put half an inch on my arms, they had been stagnated, fair enough. At that point, you actually know what is working or not working, and you can actually see the differences because you were in a plateau. But for beginners, not so much. So that's my take on things. I think he is providing value, but probably not to the population that is actually watching his videos, which is almost entirely beginners, for sure. by virtue of it being a very, very large YouTube channel. The vast majority of people watching it are going to be noobs. Not all, but most. All right, that's all for this video. Like, subscribe, slap around that notification bell so that you decide what you watch, not the YouTube algorithm. And I will see all y'all in that next video. Peace.
Push, 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 push.
Surprise, motherfucker.